Welcome to our next interview with the teachers from the YAF Seminar Downunder. We've got Joe Thambu Shihan from the Shudokan. Thank you, Sensei, for your time. Uh,
Course, pleasure to be here with you, Ryan.
yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to uh, getting through a couple of things on mostly on your teaching and your both your philosophy and teaching, but also not just generally in classes, but also how you approach seminars and what people can expect from this one coming up.
Okay, cool.
So just to give you a little bit of a heads up on some of the categories in which we're going to discuss. I'm first going to ask you about your background journey in training and some of how that's influenced you. Um, then move into some of your expectations around what you're hoping from the seminar in September. Uh,
Okay.
and then your what you hope people will take away from the seminar, and then finish off with some of your ideas around the Yoshinkan world more broadly.
Yeah, do you really want to go there?
Uh, well, let's just see where we go.
Okay, all right.
All right.
I
Um,
better not drink too much then.
I'm aware of it's after class, and so I won't take too much of your time, but thank you.
No, no, got all the time in the world.
So firstly, can you share a little bit of the pivotal moments in your and the influential moments in your training over time, both the what moments, but also the who moments that shaped your approach to martial arts today and over.
Okay. I think there've been quite a few pivotal moments. One, when I was a kid, Draga Sensei was teaching a special class, and I was flying back to the dojo on my bicycle, which did not have brakes to get there. Took a fall, scraped my knees, and my sister bandaged them up. I went to the dojo, stood at the entrance and bowed and said, "Oh, Sensei," and he walked away. Right? I, 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 I think I processed it for a long time. Years later, I realized I felt bad because I didn't get a chance to explain why I was late. For him, it was, "You're here now. You weren't here before. It's over, done with. Bow, start."
Right.
And I felt I needed to explain,
Yeah.
you know. And I listened to Mori Sensei's interview, and that's what the word os means. Just, hide, persevere.
Mm,
I took we often as students want to explain ourselves.
mm,
It's not necessary.
mm,
And that was a pivotal moment in my training when I didn't realize it back then, but then all used was os, no excuses, no nothing. Os, and you either do it or you don't do it.
mm. It's very
And it sorry, it's very Yoda, yeah. But
Yoda-like. You
yeah,
you either
but
do or you don't. And pick.
another pivotal moment was when I first went to the Yoshinkan Hombu Dojo in 1983. My uncle's friend took me there
Mm,
and put the bags down, introduced me to Kancho Sensei, Takino Sensei, everyone. And he said, "Okay, let's go out for lunch." Took me for lunch, and he said, "Whatever happens, don't cry." And I'm thinking, I've already done 10 years of Aikido. What's he talking about? He says, "Whatever happens, don't cry. You represent me, you represent your uncle, don't cry." And I didn't understand what he meant till
mm,
the Kidotai course started, the riot police started,
yeah.
course started. And then I realized what he meant by don't cry, you know.
So that,
And I bled, but I didn't cry.
yeah.
Um, but that was another pivotal moment in that was for me the spirit of the Yoshinkan. Same as Mori Sensei, he lived in the Koganai dojo for a long time, and it imbued in you a sense of direction, a sense of maybe it honed the mongrel in you, for want
Mm.
of a better word, and you just went, "Oof, that's it," you know. And I was tested, really tested, but it taught me a lot. There's other pivotal moments, but I'd say those two stand out at this point in time.
As an aside, or just springboarding off that point, do you think, and I don't want to or digress too far, but do you think you made reference to representing family past and present? Do you think that we often don't consider that enough in our actions and how we present ourselves today?
Randy, you're one step ahead of me. Look, that's true. I think we don't. Takino Sensei he said to me once, I said I was Sensei going to the supermarket. He said, yes, okay. I got changed, went to the supermarket. He goes, where are you going? I said, to the supermarket. He says, yeah, I know. You already asked me. Why aren't you in your dogi? I said, I'm going to the supermarket. He goes, yes, I know you're going to the supermarket. Why aren't you in your dogi? And I'm going, I said, it's cold. Okay, put a jumper on the inside. This is your business suit. This is your coat of arms. His was, don't be embarrassed. This is dogi, wear it with pride. Yeah. And if I would never wear a dirty dogi or one that's torn when I do, I have lots of dogis, lots that are torn, lots that are dirty and ragged, but I'll never wear one when I go outside to represent the dojo, because I'm representing, like you said, family, history, teachers, etc. I can't do otherwise. And I think it's for people to decide what that dogi means to them, what their culture, what their attitude, everything means to them. I'm struggling with this at the moment. I'm in a very negative place because of this. If I go to a seminar, I will represent myself. And I will represent my teachers, I will represent my dojo, represent the art. You saw me in Kyoto, and you're one of the ones who told me don't do a demonstration. A lot of people told me not to do that. And, walking on, all I could think of was don't fall over, don't fall over. But I was there and I had to do it regardless. I had to represent my teachers, past and present. And I think that's what the Yoshinkan imbued in me, instilled in me. And you got to put your best foot forward all the time.
I guess that's something that it translates into every other aspect of your life as well, doesn't it?
You try. I mean, you're not on top of your game all the time. You're not 100% all the time, but you got to be 100% of that day. Especially if you're going out and representing your teachers and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You're best at that time.
I can keep going, but yeah, that's pretty much sums it up. We represent culture, we represent our teachers, we represent a lot of things. I went to teach at a dojo on Monday, and there were Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people made up about 2/3, and a third karate, Kyokushin karate. And their mannerisms, their behavior, everything were poles apart. The BJJ were doing what's right for BJJ. The Kyokushin karate people were exactly like what you would expect in a dojo. So no right or wrong, but you look and you think, wow,
it's culture.
That's culture, yeah. BJJ is about technique, perhaps about traditional Buddha is about culture, about bettering yourself.
And Sensei, in terms of the way in which you approach your teaching now, and the culture in which you instill in your dojo now, has your earlier life in security had any influence on that?
Big influence. Let me go back a little bit. I got to the point in 1989 where I was stagnant. My Aikido was just stagnant. And I could make things work, but I wasn't getting anywhere. I could take big people down. I could do stuff. I was working security part-time even back then. But Aikido for me was stagnant. And I thought, I'm going to go to Japan. Don't know how long for, don't know. I paid the dojo rent for a year and said to my students, you run it. I went for a year. And I stayed in the Hombu dojo. I stayed in Tokyo, not the Hombu dojo, in Tokyo for 6 months. In that 6 months, it changed my whole perspective about what Aikido is and where I wanted to go. But the early days of doing security, and then when I came back in the 90s, I asked myself, is what I'm teaching working? Because I was teaching a lot of police people, a lot of security people. Is what I'm teaching working? 1, 2. do I still have the temerity to make it work? Do I still have the guts to make it work? The only way I could answer that was to put myself on the door of a club for another 5 years.
Mm.
And for me, the Aikido fed how I worked, how I spoke to people, how I stood, how I conducted myself in an altercation before, after. And that informed my Aikido. So now, I will talk to people who will never in their lives get into a fight.
Mm.
But unless they're aware, unless they have some sense of what we're doing is a Budo, then they're wasting their time. They can still come and train, but they're wasting their time.
Yeah.
If you line up and you got people to the right and left of you on the line and you're not on the line, well, then where's your sense of awareness?
Mm. Mm.
And as you and I know, that is the first and last thing in martial arts, in everyday life. It's just that awareness. And so that informed a lot of what I did technically as well as mentally.
Yeah.
But even that's changing as I change, because I'm 63. I no longer want to talk about fighting or doing this or doing that. I still think it's important. And when I front up to do something to someone, I will do it with that kind of feeling. But I think it's for younger people to teach that. I want to teach more Aiki type techniques. But I still want to see that hard ass attitude in the younger people in my dojo. And for that, I need younger instructors who will take the baton.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask. Is that the responsibility of others within the dojo? Yeah,
I think so. I think if I go down too much that way, it's not just a technical thing, right? It's a mental thing as well. You go down too much that way, you stop going forward. But as you go forward, you can't relax too much mentally. You have to keep it tight. But that's where you need other people as a group, as a dojo. It's a group effort. Ryan, I've been doing Aikido now for 53 years, right? I am sick and tired of telling people to stand straight, to sit straight, to tie your belt, to stand still when you bow. Now, that has to be the job of the others. I'm jaded. I'm telling people again and again, but now it has to. I've thrown it to the others. Guys, you guys do it, or it's going to be a slippery slope. If I accept that kind of behavior, it's a slippery slope, and I won't accept that behavior. That is part and parcel of the Yoshin feeling. I've seen some stuff on YouTube that is appalling. It's not, getting a high level is not a joke. Don't turn it into a circus. What we do is, Budo. What we do is Yoshin. What we do is a reflection of ourselves, our parents, our teachers. To denigrate that by doing silly things and then publicizing it, it's sad and depressing.
So, and as you said, I guess the culture and tradition of what has happened in the past shouldn't be diminished with what we do next.
We can ease up on it a little bit, right? But we shouldn't get to a point where we can't even recognize who we are historically.
Yeah. Following on from that, in terms of September, what are your expectations for the seminar in terms of what would you like to see on the mats? What's your hope for both the way in which you'd like students to conduct themselves, what you hope the event produces, both your part in it, but also collectively?
Okay. For my part, I want to share with people what I'm working on now. And that will vary depending on levels. So I teach levels within levels, and I will try and show various levels what I'm working on now. And I could show you what I was working on 10 years ago, but I'd rather show you what I'm working on now. That's one thing. That's for my part. And I want to make it interesting and dynamic and enigmatic. And if I fail, hit me on the head, please. But I will do my best. What I expect is maybe a hard word, but what I'd like is when you step on the mat, remember, like I said before, you're representing your teacher and your dojo, right? When you step on the mat, acknowledge that there is one teacher out there. Do it their way. Don't try and teach. And this is where there's a lot of angst on the mats, lots of problems on the mats, because people try and teach. And someone said to me once, sorry, Sensei, I'm a 6th dan. This was in Japan. I'm a 5th dan, sorry. I'm a 5th dan. And this person is a shodan and they're doing it wrong. I said, where do I draw the line between teaching and helping? I said, if you say to the person, right, come on, not left, that's okay. If you start explaining it, then you're teaching. If someone, grabs you ryote moche instead of katate moche and you remove his hand and put it there, that's fine. Silly not to do that, right? But if you start to explain the technique, then you're teaching. That's a simple definition. But it's also the feeling, I have to say that Takano Sensei once said, if you want to help your partner, don't teach them. Be a good uke. If they're stumbling, give them the shape. And if you can do it without explaining anything, it will better you.
And if you're a higher dan, you should be able to do that, right? That should be your training as a higher
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And Saito Sensei once said, right, that the job of a higher level is to create the shape for the lower level. The lower level person then applies the technique with respect. I've given you my arm, don't wreck it. Yeah. Then once you learn the shape from a higher level, then you go and train with the lower level person and you recreate the shape. Same goes with feeling, etc., etc. Yeah. I also, I think it's a fine line, and this is where awareness comes in. Teachers often ask people, how did that feel? Not seeking an appraisal of their technique. They're wanting to see where you're at.
Whether you've embodied
what
it.
You think. Yes. What you felt, what you think. Not to commentate on their technique, but Sensei would ask me things and I would think, geez, why is he asking me that? I would even, I'd answer. Then afterwards, I'd try and figure out, oh, he was checking me. He was looking at my opinion of what that person did. He wasn't looking for anything else. And he wasn't looking for that opinion. He was looking for my understanding.
Yeah.
That's what people have to understand. So when I throw someone and they lie on the mat and laugh and say, oh, Sensei, that was great, I just walk away. When you don't commentate on someone's technique, you just stand up in standing kamae and look again. Can you imagine Mori Sensei commenting on Kancho Sensei's technique after getting thrown? No. Exactly. Yeah. But people do that. They lie on the mat and laugh and go, oh, Sensei, that's great. Yeah. Don't do that. Yeah.
I'm too busy thinking. What are that, trying to internalize and take in as much data as I can.
Yeah. As a nuke, this is an aside, if you don't mind. As a nuke, I used to be really tense taking uke for the Takano Sensei or my uncle, Obata Sensei, Narayama Sensei from Tomiki Aikido. I used to be really tense. Once I'd done it for a while, I relaxed more and I felt what they were doing. Then I would go back and try and emulate that feeling. But if you're tense all the time or you're resisting all the time, you don't feel. So a lot of people go like this. And the body language is saying, does it work? You and I grab someone, we grab like this, and it's like the body language saying, how is this working? So we're grabbing with our whole body, not just with our hands, right? And there's a big difference. People who grab like this want to be taught. Yeah. People who grab like this are there to learn. So when you come to a seminar, come to learn, don't come to be taught.
Yeah, you've stolen the question from me. Thank you. You've mentioned what you're expecting from people on the mats now. A little bit about what they can expect. What can students on the mat expect from you, Sensei?
Like I said, I have no clear teaching program. What I teach will depend on the discipline, the level, the focus of the students. For example, if I give you an example, right, I'll go overseas and teach. And if I've never taught in a dojo before, I will do Kamae, Seiza. That's it. Kamae and Seiza. And in that 5 minutes, I've decided what I'm teaching for the next two days. When I'm doing Kamae and Seiza, if they're wobbling, well, I can't teach them anything fast, can I? If I'm doing Kamae and Seiza and people are looking around, well, they don't have discipline or focus. I can't teach them anything dangerous. So, this is that little thing informs me. Darren Friend Sensei once said, when people are doing a warm-up, he watches from behind. And that tells him a lot about their physical ability. I do those three. I decide on those three things, like ability, discipline, focus, within the first 5 minutes of meeting someone.
So do you have a structure which works? Like I know you mentioned you're almost like a pre-evaluation of people on the mats
Yep.
at the beginning. But even though that informs the techniques or what you do next, is there a structure that works for you best in terms of how you approach a seminar session?
It would depend on whether I'm teaching by myself or if I'm teaching with other teachers. I have my favorite techniques that I will teach, but if someone else has already done Kotegash, I won't do it. I'll cover something else. Sometimes I would try, let's say I teach a lot in Master Sensei and he'll work on this concept. I will show that concept from a different angle, a different perspective. Yeah. So I try and blend and fit in with what's going on the day. If I'm doing by myself, then my own agenda.
Yeah. And is it compartmentalized? Like, will you start with fundamentals, Kamae?
Yeah. So a long time ago, I saw my passion, my job in Yoshinkan Aikido to show people the relevance of the Kion Dosa and Kamae. And for me, whatever I do, I try and take people to one step backwards. If you have problems with Jiwaza or Go Shinjitsu, look at the Kion Waza. If you have a problem with the Kion Waza, look at the Kion Dosa. You got a problem with the Kion Dosa, look at your Kamae. So if you're doing Nikajo like this, then think Shumas Dosa like this. Think Kamae like this. So I always say, take one step back. Yeah. And that one step backward informs what you're doing going one step forward.
So even the structure of the session will be determined by what you're seeing in the beginning.
Yes, and I will always take it back to the basics because I firmly believe in the basics. Yeah. I see a lot of value in the basics. I firmly believe in it.
What advice would you give to people on how they could take away, not what they could take away, but how they can apply their takeaways from the seminar when they return back to their home dojos? How do they keep the learning going?
Okay.
Because I've often seen in your session, Sensei, in seminars, you'll often say, "This is a seminar. It's not a class. It's a seminar, and they're not necessarily the same thing." So when you go back, don't try and replicate exactly what we're doing here. It's not the same thing. Can you just unpack that a little bit?
Okay, so I think everyone has to decide what's foremost for them in martial arts, or maybe the top 3 things in martial arts, right? Seek it out. Eventually, you'll get to the top where it's all the same, but seek those 3 things. For me, speed has always been my priority. I won't sacrifice anything for speed. And because when I was a kid growing up, I saw videos, they were 16 mm of Kancho Sensei, and he was super fast. I asked my uncle, what was Shoda Gozo Kancho like? He said, very fast. And when I finally went to Japan, I thought, geez, that's an understatement. And then working on nightclubs with my size, my body build, I had to be fast. So that fitted into my mindset, my ADHD, whatever you want. Speed was really important for me, but it's speed born from technique. So I'm hoping that when I move fast, I'm not going like this. My center line's kept straight. I watch Mori Sensei do the kick punch stuff that you guys do, and I'm watching his movement. His center line is straight. He can turn as much as you want. He doesn't wobble, right? Robert Mustard, he will do whatever he wants, but he's, and this is one of the things people need to look at and take away, the power of the center line.
Irrespective.
And yeah, Mustard Sensei can put on some really amazing power, but it's not strength. I've seen Mori Sensei bounce people's heads off the mat. Yeah. And it's not strength, it's power. Don't confuse power and strength. One of the worst Shihonages I ever had in my life was from Darren Friend. I nearly felt my lungs come out of my chest. Takeno Sensei did the same to me. Don't tell Darren I said that, though. You can tell I've been beaten up by the best, honestly, and I can tell when it's strength-based or power-based. And the power comes from the technique. The technique comes from center line, timing, movement. So I'm hesitant about telling people what to take away from the seminar because I don't want to tell you what to look for. I don't want to tell you what your Aikido should be like. Yeah. Take away what you will, do the best you can with it, because that will be based on your character, your personality. If I tell you what Aikido should be like, or what you should look for, then I'm guiding you, overly guiding you. I'm almost turning it into a dogmatic pursuit. It should be a philosophical pursuit, and you choose what you want. So some people might say the awase or the blending. Some people might say it's the focus. Some might say it's the timing. In the end, it's all of that. But what you put first really must be up to you.
Valuable words. Thank you, Sensei.
Most pleasure.
Final points. I don't want to drag this on too long. How do you see these seminars? This is now a year or just over a year out of Kyoto. There's other seminars from the YAF happening in different places. What's your vision for or not your vision? I shouldn't say that. How do you see the importance or the significance of maintaining these sorts of connections periodically within the community, both for Yoshinkan as a smaller community, but as even within the Aikido world as well?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm guilty of this too. But I think we need to stop using the word Yoshinkan or the name Yoshinkan. It's who we are, it's where we're from, and all that. But the powers that be really don't want us using that name. Mm. And if I look at what has happened to what is the people who represent Yoshinkan today, I'm embarrassed to use the name. I really am embarrassed to use the name. So if we talk about the Yoshinkan system of Aikido that we do, then I'll happily use that name, because I don't know any other Aikido than the Yoshinkan system. I think it's good that it brings people together. And Mori Sensei, I listened to his interview. He said you'll see different teachers teaching differently, some doing the same thing, some doing different. And I think that's really valid. When you come to a seminar, it brings people together. If you come to a seminar and train with your own, you come to a seminar and socialize with your own, then you've lost half the value of the seminar. If you come in, train with other people, blend with other people, go back and say, that guy sucked or that dojo sucked. That's fine. But at least you tried training with them. Not beat them up, but try training with them. If they're Lawrence, you can beat them up, no problem, right? But have fun, meet other people, engage with other people, listen to how other people think, train. And one of the best things Aikido has ever done for my life was the acquaintances I've made, the friends I've made, the people I've made. And that's been through seminars. Mm-hmm. Training with people, doing stuff on different people, earning their respect, learning to respect them, asking someone, hey, Jesus, that didn't work, oh, why didn't that work? He says, oh, I don't know, try it again. And you try it again, you think, okay, back to the drawing board. All the time you go, oh, geez, that didn't work. And they go, yes, it worked, I just didn't want to tap.
Okay.
So you get that, and then there's a sense of camaraderie there, and think, okay, you're a man after my own heart there. I'll give that one. Yeah, but it's like, you come to a seminar, mix around, train around, meet different people, feel different ways of moving and stuff like that. And that's part and parcel of a seminar. Don't lose that. And be respectful. If you find someone small, take care of them. It's a job of the stronger to look after the weaker, not to hammer the weaker. Yeah. Except for Lawrence. Then you can beat him up. But no one's smaller than Lawrence, is there?
That's right. Everyone's smaller than Lawrence.
Oh, sorry, that's right. Yeah. But yeah, look, I like seminars because I think they give you realize that you're part of something bigger.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the true value of Kyoto, the true value of this. We're part of something bigger, and it's not the Yoshinkan. It's the connection between your teacher and mine, your teacher and Darren Friend and me, John Marshall and Maurice Sensei, all these people, that connection. And you live through that connection. Any of you guys come to Melbourne for Maurice Sensei's dojo, you got a place to stay. You go to Singapore, you got somewhere. You go to Malaysia, you got somewhere, because of that connection.
Yeah, it was never,
and that's so important.
Evident than in Kyoto, wasn't it? That patchwork.
Yes. Yeah.
Sensei, thank you for your time. Do you have any
my pleasure.
Final words that you'd like to share with the community before we sign off?
No, I'm in a very negative frame of mind when it comes to Yoshinkan, so I won't say anything. I apologize. But look, everyone, I really look forward to Brisbane. We did it, 2 years ago in Melbourne?
Yeah.
And that was a great time. Great, like I said, the students get together, but also behind the scenes, the teachers got together. And it was a while before we were all together, right? And seeing Maurice Sensei drink after so long was quite funny too. Don't tell him I said that. But it was a good feeling between the teachers, good feeling between the students, a lot of interactions. A few people had their knickers in a knot, but that's natural. And hopefully we will see the same thing, and hopefully Australian Yoshinkan system of Aikido will grow. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to be part of it. And thank you again, Sensei, for sharing your time.
And thank you for all your efforts in making this happen.
Absolute pleasure.